Family dysfunction, emotional abuse, freaky things skittering in the background. Sounds like a perfectly unsettling spooky time watch, right? Other is a new Shudder original, so is it gonna be your next October staple? Alice returns to her childhood home after her mother's death, only to find the house is rigged with surveillance tracking her every move, as a sinister presence lurks, driving her towards a terrifying revelation. This stars Olga Kurylenko as Alice, a woman who goes back to her estranged mom's home to tie up some loose ends after the mom's death. Now, the home, it is a paranoid's dream fortress, surrounded by cameras, motion detectors, and then all sorts of alarms. As Alice lingers in her childhood home, she begins to hear some strange chitterings and bumps in the night, just amping up her fear and also propelling her into a search of her past. Now, this movie, it is very atmospheric, which is a good thing because the character development, it is sparse at best. We know little, if anything, about the mom, other than she's afraid of something either getting in or out of her home. And we consistently are shown visual alarms signaled by these red flashing lights that are mounted on poles that surround the entire property. Their on-off cadence, coupled with a mild click of the bulb transitioning, it's a little unnerving. But what also works to craft an aura of unease is we get very brief and vague glimpses of something that sprints around in the dark. It appears animalistic, but thanks to strategically dim scenes, the figure is mostly indiscernible. Kurylenko as Alice, she's cagey. Not quite skittish, but certainly uncomfortable at being back in her childhood home. And just like the mom, we receive barely any background information on the character. We eventually learn through some VHS recordings some of the reason why Alice was estranged from her mom, which then also works to inform why she's a bit guarded and then wary of her surroundings. Now, throughout the story, we're shown these obscured and indistinct visuals. Quick moving shadows across a barely lit hallway, thuds in the middle of the night, maybe even items being moved when Alice leaves a room. Now, these did add a small ick factor, creating chills that weren't full-blown heebie-jeebies, but still creepy enough to kind of make you squirm a little bit. And there's also the addition of a mysterious neighbor who loves to fly their drone over the home and then spy on whatever they can see. Now, the views that we get of this person, they're quickly brief. Typically, the face is also hidden behind some kind of mask. Now, I liked what the intention of this character was, to be a knowing entity who can give warnings to those not in the know. But the intention, it's not realized in an effective way. I mean, yeah, they are mysterious and slightly strange, but they're also underutilized and then not given enough screen time that they can even become a harbinger of the terrors that are about to come. Now, the story wants to be an examination of family dysfunction, emotional abuse, dysmorphia, shame, secrets, but the presentation is confused for the longest time on what it really wants to convey. Towards the climax of the film, we do get better insight into those emotional and psychological attacks, but these then create rationalizations for all of that creepy stuff we've seen, effectively just nullifying any trepidation that might have been building. And the final reveal, it is obvious. And I'm not saying it's not dark, but it's just very predictable, which then takes away the eerie momentum that preceded it. Kurylenko, she gives a fine performance for what she's got to work with. I mean, she adequately conveys the haunted personality. Somebody who's detached, scarred by familial trauma. But what this also becomes is someone who is so turned in on themselves that they become uninteresting on the outside. I mean, she wasn't devoid of sympathy, and I could feel for her predicament, but I wasn't connected with the character at all. And the real driving force was that I wanted to see where this would lead, and that then turned out to just be a place that was ultimately dull. The pacing for this also works against the creep factor. There's a small boundary between being deliberately patient so that it builds a story of suspense, and then being slow so that it tears down anxiety through just sheer boredom. Other, unfortunately, leans towards that latter part. I mean, I was vibing with this, despite not knowing the characters, because the unknown thing in the shadows, it was ominous and presented through some really dark, tense visuals. But the longer the story progressed, the presence became more of a gimmick, with the movie hoping that the indistinct boogie thing and some gruesome imagery were going to be enough to sustain an otherwise thin tale. Others are regrettably disappointing and lackluster horror. The atmosphere built within the story, along with the shadowed threats in the night, vows to deliver a chilling story with dark and haunting themes. Instead, we're presented with sparse character development, a stoic performance, and a slowness that derails any chills, leading to an experience that doesn't provide the promised payoff that it began with. There's no sex, maybe a tiny bit of extremely brief nudity, some profanity, and then some gory violence. I give Other 2 out of 5 couches. And if you're looking for horrors that delve into family trauma, you're better off watching The Babadook or Hereditary. Okay, so what do you have planned to watch during spooky season? I would love to get some recommendations in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.